Thank you, honey. All right, every time. So this, most of you have been doing it. Those of you who've just started, just gotten with us with basic training or the Ascension experience, the boot camp, this may be a first. I've gotten a lot of emails from people who have never meditated and don't really know how to do it at all. So we're going to talk about all different sorts of things today. And meditation, I don't know if you guys know, this is something I learned not too long ago. We have documented evidence of it all the way back to like 5,000 BCE. So even in the Vedas, which is one of the largest religious texts, that's the first place it was written about. And the origin, I believe, is India, but there's some talk about Taoist China. So it's been around a long time, and it really is why we do it. Why those of us in Joshua, why we encourage it with this work when we start these courses, is really just a matter of learning to slow down your thought. And you want to slow down your thought so that you can hear your inner self or whatever might be speaking to you. Sorry, still letting people in here. That's why we do it. The benefits of it, those of you that do it certainly understand that, it's focus and concentration, improve mental health, you've better sleep, better just sense of well-being, concentration is better. So there's a lot of reason to do it. But for us in our work, it's really so that we learn to slow down our thought and then hear, and also over time begin to really get the understanding that we are not our thoughts and that we really are just attracting those. So it's just this practice of centering ourselves and in an awareness of this present moment. And you guys know everything we hear, everything we talk about, it's now, this present moment is where all of our power is. So for me, the way I would define it, and I had someone ask me this a couple months ago, what is it for me and why did I do it? And I think as I look back on it, it's just this introspective technique that increases your awareness of who and what you truly are. And in increasing that awareness, you also increase your awareness of your abilities. And that is exactly what happened to me. That's what, I think why we really encourage it. And I know that's probably why a lot of you are wanting to do it. So to start out with, I'm going to talk about setting yourself up. When you set yourself up to meditate, when you're going to start beginning this practice, initially, really at the beginning, it is to me about setting yourself into a place that's quiet with no distraction. And that's just at the beginning. And we're going to go through that and why that can change and how that can change. But at first, the best thing to do is to get yourself set in a place where you're not going to be distracted. I would always suggest morning. I know that is an individual thing and you have to find what works best for you. But the morning when we have our daily spiritual practice, that just sets you up. So for me, when I first really got back into meditating after a bit of fear that I had with it for a number of years, I just made a commitment to get up earlier, and Drew and I did that. We did the boot camp together. So we just got up 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes early and did our meditation while it was quiet, and that made that commitment. And then the time that you can do it starts to increase. So I would suggest that, and it's part of that is routine. So when you do that and you select this place that you do it and a time that you do it, it becomes a routine and you start to build a habit. And then once you build a habit, it's like anything, then you can bend and flex with it and move it around. And we'll talk more about that too. So, I'm going to start. I think, does anybody have any questions or anything before I keep going? I feel like I was yelling at you guys. No? All right. So I'm going to start first of all, because I think most all of you on here, of course, all of you are, have been through some Joshua course, but I'm going to start with those of you who are actively participating, enrolled right now in a basic training, a boot camp, or an ascension experience. For those courses, if you are actively doing them, actively participating, do Joshua meditations and do them in the morning if at all possible. For those of you who are prolific meditators, practice meditators, you probably have other ways to meditate that you enjoy that can be done after the Joshua meditation, some other time in the day, but during the course, do that meditation. There's a reason for those. The way that they're designed is to raise your perspective and really get you ready for that day's concept, for what's getting ready to come into you, that day's assignment. So that's why it is that way. And they are different in each course. So the rotation of them is different depending on what course you're doing. So sit with that. So next thing I would say is position too. This was always a tricky one for me, and I don't know if it is for you guys, but when I first started it, I thought I had to sit in that lotus position with my back really straight and my right leg on my left thigh, or my right foot on my left thigh, so I had to figure out, no, that you don't have to do that. If you want to, and it works for you, great. The idea of the position, just be comfortable. Just find a place that you're comfortable. I know some people say they can't lie down to meditate because they'll fall asleep, but I think that's fine. If you fall asleep, that's okay too. It really, there isn't a big deal if that's how you're comfortable. I think when I first started, I started with pillows on the floor and my back up against the bed. So I'm in the floor of the bedroom and my back there, and that worked really well. So for any of you who are thinking there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, or a way you have to sit, don't, just be comfortable. And now I'm almost 100% of the time I lie down to meditate. So I just don't think it matters. Anybody have a question or an issue or an idea there?
Christy, I do. It's JoJo. I love that you're doing this, by the way. Thank you so much.
I would have done it so much. It's really funny. There's so many of you on here. I can't believe it. So, this is great. I think it's like, okay, so something just came up as I was listening to you talk, and it's, I'm glad that you mentioned how you do it and like that you're laying down now, because I used to get caught up in, oh my God, I'm never doing it right. So I would lose the motivation to want to try, beat myself up. And I think we all kind of sometimes get in a pattern of that. Mm-hmm. One of my best meditations, which is really weird, and I'm going to go out there on a limb, because you mentioned laying down. I did a meditation. It wasn't in the morning like we were supposed to do it, but I was laying down on the couch. I think it was a Joshua meditation, and I was anti-shot, anti-getting the shot, right? The COVID shot. Uh-huh. Just so many reasons. I didn't finish my meditation, but I was laying down, and it was without a doubt just shot straight up without thinking, with a decision to go get it. And I followed through on the inspiration without thought and went and got it done. Don't know how, why. I didn't really think back upon it. It was just so strong that I was compelled to go get it done. So contrary to anything that I had ever done. Wow. So that was experienced lying down. So not how I would normally do it. Right. And I do like how you said it's okay to fall asleep if you do, because your body's going to do what it needs to do for you. Mm-hmm. And then I was also thinking, when you mentioned how you would like kneel, play around with it. I have a girlfriend that I got her into meditation as well. And it was a joy to watch her go through her journey of experiencing different ways to do it. Mm-hmm. And it was all done in joy. And so the point I wanted to make was, allow it to be a joyful experience to try different things to see what works for you. Right. And it will change over time. And that's just kind of part of the fun. Yep. Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's the stuff I want you guys to share on this, if it's something you've been doing for a while. I noticed in so many of the questions that I got from so many of you over the last few weeks, there really does seem to be this idea that there is a right way to do this and that there is something you're supposed to experience. And that just isn't true at all. This is an individual thing. And it is also within you, it's going to be unique every single time you do it. So there is no right way to do this. So all I'm offering you guys today, because I've been meditating for such a long time, then experienced a lot of fear around it and didn't do it, and then went back to it. So I have a lot of ideas and things the way that it worked for me. So that's just what we're going to go through. So I'll go to the Joshua meditations. That's where I wanted to start for those of you that are in this. Some things to do when you are going to do the Joshua meditation. Use earphones, don't use them. It's whatever seems to work for you. I almost always use them because I like the way I feel surrounded by it and just sort of cocooned by the sound, but it doesn't matter. It really does not matter. So get into your position. And when you begin to listen to it, all you want to do is breathe and breathe naturally and be aware of it. So as you're listening softly to those words, you just close your eyes, breathe in and out a natural breath. That's all you do. I suggest something that I do before I start any meditation is I just completely empty my lungs. I just blow out as much as I can and then just start breathing naturally. We're going to talk about some other ways to breathe once as you move along, but for the Joshua meditations and when you start, just breathe naturally and watch your breath as it's going in and out. The thing that all of you are going to notice, everyone who's been doing it for a long time, is your mind is going to wander. That's what it does. That's what it believes its job is. This is how it's kept you alive for however many years before you started meditating. Your mind doesn't understand that in this seeking of self-awareness and this attempt or desire to quiet your mind, that this is something beneficial for you. Your mind does not understand that in wandering off, it's actually doing us harm. It doesn't understand that. And so when your mind starts to wander, the trick that I use is that it's a toddler. And if I had my daughter with me or someone else's child, and they start to wander off and go away from what we're focused on here, I didn't yell and scream at them. I didn't tell them they were bad. I didn't get frustrated with them. I gently walk over, pat them on the back, bring them back. Come on, sweetie, come back here, stay with me. And that's all you really need to do to your mind. Lots of you, and I'm hoping somebody else will suggest something. That's what I do. And I just noticed, oh my gosh, I have no idea how long I've been off thinking about something. And I realize that I am, and I just don't judge it. You can smile, and you can even say to yourself a word, wandered, thought. Anything that you want to say to yourself, you're training your mind. You're just training it. And notice it and bring it back and focus on your breath. Now we're going to focus on the breath again. You may focus on 2 breaths before your mind wanders for most of the meditation. When you first start doing this, that's fine. That's what you're doing. You can't start out squatting 400 pounds. You're going to start out learning how to squat no pounds. So that's what you're doing. So that's my trick. Does anybody have a trick, any of you that have been doing this for a long time, on how you bring your mind when you recognize that it started to wander, how you recenter and focus back on your breathing or something else? No?
I would be in a dark room and then imagine opening a doorway, walking through that doorway into a darker room. And I kept layering that depth of darkness from one room to the next room. Each one was consecutively darker. That allowed to get into a little deeper spot in the meditation.
Oh, I remember you telling me that. That's awesome. Okay, that's great. So your inner self will give you tricks as well. If you have an idea, don't think, well, that's silly. Just try it. Just try it. So,
Christy?
yeah.
Hi, I've been a long time meditator, and what I've noticed, I'm playing around with it lately, is I've decided because of low back pain, I should like work on my core, and I do my stretches. I noticed when I did my stretches first and a couple of little, yoga postures, when I sat down to meditate, it was like my body had to sort of discharge some of the tension. I noticed my mind was a little quieter. So I'm playing around with, stretching and then doing it, meditating and then stretching. So it's interesting.
It's really interesting. I went through a period of time very much like that, where I would go out and run or walk just around the neighborhood to do what, Drew and Lily and I call get to the end of myself. When training horses, get to the end of the horses, just to get some of that energy out. And I mean, I go on a 10-mile run just around the block and get some of that out and then meditate. I found that helped me early on. So perfect. Stretching, something to get that energy out, because the next thing you're going to do once you begin to focus on your breath and before your mind wanders off is to just notice the way your body feels. Notice how its weight against either the floor or the couch or the bed, the chair, wherever you are. Notice the weight of your body. Start to notice physical sensation, any pain, discomfort, anything else that you might feel, and just observe it. Just be aware of it. This isn't bad. It isn't wrong. Just be aware of where it is in your body and continue to follow your breath. And then you can listen gently to the words of, in this case, the Joshua meditation. So in that, as you notice that, you, of course, can move your body and shuffle to a more comfortable position. But you will also notice things like an itch. I have an itch on my face. I have, and my nose itches. And that's hilarious. That again is that ego, that whatever, you'll notice these sensations. So just be aware of it. And if you can, do not address it at all. Just be aware that the itch is there. Keep breathing, go back to focusing on your breath, and you can just chuckle, physical sensation, and just take note of it, be aware of it, acknowledge it, and continue to breathe. Pain, serious discomfort, adjust yourself. Little things like that, begin to just be aware of it and make a note. You can say something in your mind and then continue to follow your breath and just scan through your body while you're listening gently to the words of the Joshua meditation. So those are things that really help me just in those meditation and really in any. And another thing I would suggest too is at the end of the meditation, specifically in the Joshua meditations, when the words stop and you hear the music begin to bring you to let you know it's time to be coming out of the meditation. At that point, I let my mind wander. It's almost as if I say, okay, it's free play. And I just let my mind go then at that point. And you will begin to recognize how, even after just a couple of times, how much slower your thought is. It doesn't race as much, even just a couple of times of doing this, and just pay attention to it. So that's something that I always do in the Joshua meditations. And a lot of times at the end of any meditation, even if my music goes off and I'm coming out of it, I just let my mind go. We'll get to that. I'm going to go back to that and tell you guys why, because as you start to get deeper and more practice in meditation, you'll see that there's some ways to play with thought in a meditation, and it starts to get really fun. So,
Christy?
Yeah. Hi, Sylvia.
Yeah, hi, Christy. There's another thing that I recently became aware of, which really works for me, actually, and it's humming.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There's somebody, I can't remember his name right now. He was recently interviewed. He is the world's hum expert, I guess, and he wrote a book on it. I actually ordered it. There's so much scientific evidence that this really works. What I know also from other practices that I've done is when you hum, your vagus nerve actually starts to slow down, which of course really helps with meditation. And so what he recommends to do, and I've been trying it out and it really works for me, is to breathe in the diaphragmatic breathing, which is really breathing down to your belly.
Yeah.
4 times, just with open mouth, do the breathing. And then on the next time, you close your mouth, and instead of breathing out, you hum. So
Okay.
You hum in one tonality near your voice, and your natural voice. You do not, you don't go that way, but you just use a hum that sort of represents your voice, and you hum as long as you can until it naturally stops. You take another deep breath and you hum again. And so they recommend to do this, between 1 and 5 minutes. I don't do it that long. And they say the real benefit of the hum you actually get when you meditate right after. So it really slows you down. So it really works for me.
That's great. Sylvia, do you mind to, on the Facebook group,
Yes.
post either this author where you found the article or anything, post about that. That's really helpful. And I wonder, because something I was going to get into talking about with you guys are chanting meditations, which is actually how I started meditating. It was the only thing I understood about meditation was just, I sat in total silence and did the ah or the om chant over and over and over and again. And that helped me. And it sounds like I wonder if that does a similar thing to the humming, but maybe.
Hey, Christy.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, Sylvia. That's really good. Okay.
I want to jump in too. This is Kelly. Hey.
Kelly.
Hey. Okay. So talking about humming, it's sort of alternatively, but similar. I like a mantra that's ho hum, but in my head. So you just say it inside your head over and over, and then it becomes like a white noise machine background playing. It's not like you're saying it anymore in your head. And that helps me kind of stay focused on not wandering.
Oh, that's great. Okay. See all this. I knew you guys were going to come with stuff to make me look really smart. Okay. Yeah.
You are really smart. Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah. I love that. Just these little tricks that you can grab, especially early on when you're struggling with this. Your mind, your ego, you guys all know this from this work, is that on the other side of your fear is everything that you want. And this idea of meditation and looking inward is very scary for your ego, this normal 3D you. And we're so programmed, all of us, to go and do. And if you're doing nothing, you're really not worth anything. You're not producing anything. You're worthless. And this is a waste of time. And it's very easy to fall into that trap of, I don't have time to do that. I have too many things to do. The kids are crying, that everybody's hungry. And that is just that fear. But this meditation, I have to tell all of you that aside from doing the boot camp, which was in conjunction with this, meditation is my best friend. It is the only reason that I've uncovered any of the intuitive, empathic gifts that I have at all, has been 100% because I was committed to meditating, and it changed everything, the way I saw everything and just how I functioned and how I reacted, and how I just could move in my life. So those little things that make you resist it. There's a reason, because that your ego does not really want you to do that. So it's really cool. So I love all these tricks. Another
Christy,
thing,
could I jump in with one thing
hey, Erica.
that's kind of helped me a little bit?
Yeah.
Hey, so I don't know if it like totally makes sense, but I used to meditate for years, and it kind of, before, it would still feel like I was behind my eyes in a way. And I think that's kind of like a calming contraction, is almost feeling like, okay, I'm up here and I'm closing my eyes. But it was really helpful either to open my eyes, or when I would close my eyes, to bring the center of my attention like way down to like my gut areas. So it was almost like I became aware of like this inner tube around me.
Mm-hmm.
And when my center was more there, things were easier. It's like there was less focus up here. So then everything kind of like slowed down.
Okay. That's cool. That's bringing me to, I knew this was going to happen, to that idea of where you're focused. Like Erica just said, focusing behind her eyes. As I started to play around with things, I did exactly what she's doing. I listened to a couple of body scan meditations. I believe they're called Yoga Nidra, something like that. And it just takes you through awareness from starting with your toes or the top of your head, and you begin to learn to relax everything in your body. This is also something that I do at the beginning of any meditation, just kind of quickly now. Just think about every area, relax my eyelids, relax my jaw, relax my lips, relax my ears, relax my hair. It's really funny, but you start to focus, you can feel your body sink into that moment. And like Erica was saying, rather than feeling like you're behind your eyes, I started imagining I was breathing through my third eye. As I would get to focus on my breath, then I would just imagine as I would breathe in, I would breathe out, in and out through that third eye or through my heart chakra. Those are great techniques that can take you off of just focusing on your normal breath to putting it somewhere else in your body, and you will begin to physically feel a sensation as you do that. And so that was always, fun. And that what Erica's saying, just to move your awareness around in your body and breathe from somewhere else or focus from somewhere else. And that's a really interesting thing, gets you out of your head and your mind wandering. So does that make sense to everybody, what I'm saying?
Well, the self-realization fellowship, which I did for some years too, they do exactly what you described. They have you close your eyes and then you move your eyes up to your third eye. Either you leave them there and breathe in and out, or just leave them there, or you actually put it outside in a triangle in front of you and you look at that third eye from the outside in. So it's what works for whoever.
Yeah, right. And that's what this is. So if we move on from the Joshua meditations for those of you that have now started to play with this, or you want to have something to do in the afternoon, in the evening, and you are drawn to other things, there are a million different types. I just mentioned the body scan, the yoga nidra. Those are great. The ones that I get for people are hertz, a number of hertz from this Solfeggio scale that is interesting, and it addresses, apparently this vibrational frequency addresses different things, different areas. You can meditate in silence. You can do guided imagery, which you're probably all familiar with, or we can do mantras or chants, which, like Kelly was saying, she did ho hum. Sylvia is actually humming. You can say mantras that you like, that you have found something that you want to say, or you can just simply chant the om or the ah. Those are all different ways to meditate depending on your situation and what you're led to. They're all very personal and what you like. So I'm going to tell you guys something that I did. And honestly, this thing really helped me. It is a meditation on Insight Timer, and it's called Taming the Monkey Mind. For those of you that are having a little struggle with your mind wandering, I would do this a lot. Even before I did the Joshua meditation, I would do this one. And the title is Taming the Monkey Mind. It's 12 minutes, 15 minutes, something. And it really, for me, it walked me through that, helped me to not judge my, toddler brain, and gave me little tips, some of which I've probably given already because they're just in me now. And I use them so much. And I think they probably came a lot from that meditation. So when I really wanted to go deep in meditation, I would do that one sometimes, and then do some kind of a body scan or some kind of music meditation or something else that I was drawn to. And that Taming the Monkey Mind one would get me to a place of really being able to quickly bring my mind back and be aware of it wandering and quiet it for a bit of time. So that one is really good. All right. Anybody have anything before I keep going? I got a bunch more stuff.
Yeah, I had a quick question, kind of more about the Joshua meditations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been doing kind of like traditional silence meditation for many years. And so it's gotten, with that kind of meditation, it's gotten pretty easy for me to just be able to kind of drop into this silence. But this is like my first time doing guided meditations, I feel like. And both, Abraham and Joshua's meditations, it's kind of a different experience for me, of like someone talking to me as I feel like, kind of trying to be in this place of like silence. And I don't know, for me, it's a little like jarring or confusing. Like, I almost feel like the talking is like keeping part of my brain active. Like, I'm like, oh, I should be like focused on what they're saying, or should I be taking this in? Mm-hmm. And I feel like I can't fully drop off into that like really peaceful, spacious openness or whatever. Right. I'm curious if you or anyone else here has had that experience, and maybe what you've done with that.
Well, I think that is true for those of you who, again, are prolific meditators and you're used to dropping in. It's something now that when I meditate, it 30 seconds and the room will start to spin and I know I'm in. That's it. I'm in. There's very little thought at all. But the Joshua meditations, in that for you, this is just a practice of a slightly different spiritual discipline. And that is it. It isn't preventing you from doing another type of meditation that you're more comfortable with, more used to throughout the day, but it is activating another little part of your brain. It isn't guided imagery. It is I don't really want to use the word subconscious, but it is a change in your perspective. Many people that come to this work come because they're highly emotionally sensitive. And many of them did not ever have anyone saying any of these things to them. Many of you have never heard people say these things to you. Lots of us had wonderful parents who told us we were perfect and beautiful and smart and all of that, but many of us didn't. And these meditations, when I listen to them, I can feel that feedback in it. And it's activating something that just under the surface is getting into your brain and through the cells of your body that you are limitless, that you are worthy, that you are powerful, that you are abundant. And they're not long, and it is just to listen gently. There is no need to focus on those words. You can focus on your breath. You can focus on different parts of your body and being aware of the sensations. You can focus on the smell of the room or the feel of the air, whatever it is you want to really focus on, and you just very gently let those words come in. And it is for you in this instance, it's that part is going to be a practice. That is a practice of allowing those words to come in, hear them, but not focus on them, and still still allow it to be and relax and just be okay in acceptance of that time.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. So would you say it's almost like you're not focusing on the words per se. They're kind of like maybe through osmosis, like kind of coming into your subconscious, and you can, not try to catch them basically. And
there's no need for you to really consciously hear any of it, but you can if you would like to. But the idea is just let the words come in. There is a vibration in each of those words and the way that it is said. And you will, as it becomes a part of you, you've attracted it. So you are a match to it. And as those words come in, they become more and more, as you repeat it, a part of you and a part of your vibration, and changes your perspective just enough that when you read the reading and you do the exercise, you begin to be prepared for each shift in perspective. That's all it is.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. So I'm going to talk with you guys about, we'll talk about the breath. I know that I said breathe naturally, empty your lungs, just lay there and be aware of your breath, but don't alter it in any way. For me, that is a really good thing. And I think, that works very well, but there are some other ideas and things that I have done that I think were very effective as well, especially early on when I was meditating and now just to play with. And one of those things is called box breathing, which is if you imagine a square, you breathe in and you might breathe in for, let's say, 3 to 4 seconds or count to 3. And you then hold your breath for a count to 3, blow out for a count of 3, and then breathe in again. So that's what you're doing. You're just making a box. It's hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out, hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out. So it's each of the 4 segments is the same amount of time. Does everybody understand that? Anybody else ever tried that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that. It's fun, but it can actually be a little unnerving to me sometimes, but it's a really good practice. There's also one it's a method. I forget the guy's name, but it's called 4-7-8. And it is a breathe in through your nose for count to 4, hold that for 7, and then blow out through your mouth for 8. That is another way. And when you are doing this and having to count and do this, you really do prevent your mind from wandering, because this focus is so challenging to do this. And then another thing to try as well is to breathe in for 3, blow out for 5. The opposite count. You have to keep track of that. And that's a little more difficult. Abraham's meditations are designed for that type of breathing. In for 3, out for 5. And the way that the lilt in her voice and the music, it goes right in rhythm with that type of breathing. So because the count is off, your brain has to think in that direction and focus, and it makes it more challenging for your mind to wander off on you. So those are things I wanted to show you guys. Anybody have any questions there?
Do you suggest the cardiac coherence?
The what's
Cardiac coherence? Cohérence cardiaque?
I don't know what that is.
It's a breathing, I think it's on 5, like there's a lot on the internet.
Uh-huh.
And, you can see like the sun going up, you breathe in, and then the sun going down, then you breathe out. And there's several type of meditation like that on the internet. It's
cool.
Cardiac for the
Heart.
The heart.
Yeah, the heart. Yeah.
Yeah, so you focus on an image.
Right,
Yeah.
Susie, can you
It's
post that?
coherence.
I've asked you and Sylvia both to post something you talked about. Susie, can you post that on
Oh,
Facebook?
sure,
Okay,
I think
great.
that's
I can do that.
Yeah,
That's
Christy, it's
heart math.
coherence. It's cardiac coherence. That's what
Oh.
she's talking about. The coherence is the word.
Okay,
Yeah, there's a lot of information on it. It's really cool.
never heard of it.
Thank you,
So
Jessica.
Sure.
I'm sheltered. Yeah, so that's great. This is so good to have all of you guys here with all of these ideas that everyone has been bringing. There's going to be something that you can grab. So I've given you guys this idea of some different breathing techniques that you can incorporate. They're just there for you. See if one of them works. If just the following the natural breath works, then don't worry about it. But if there's other things you want to try, then those are things that you can try. The next thing that I would tell you guys is, especially if you're new to this or, really new to the commitment of doing it, is get comfortable with discomfort. Because anyone who is new to meditation, period, and anyone who is a practiced meditator, at some point, you experience these negative emotions, this anxiety or some restlessness or even irritation. Everyone, it's 100%. And especially when you're new at it, it's more constant. And what I would say is don't resist that. When you get into meditation or even you're getting ready to go into it, you can feel that anxiety or, that irritation. Give those emotions your full attention when you are going into the meditation, when you're in the meditation. If you feel that, pay attention to it. Give it your full attention. Don't resist it. Don't try to fight it. Over time, when you pay attention to these and you put your awareness on this irritation or whatever this little negative emotion is in it, your mind learns to recognize this, but it will also get used to not getting caught up in that thought trap, that vibration, that attracting those thoughts. As you practice, let yourself be aware of that emotion, put your full attention on it. And as you do, you can still focus on your breath. And over time, your mind will get used to not getting caught up in those patterns of thought. You'll watch it happen. And it's very beneficial in meditation, and it's certainly beneficial just in your daily life. So, anybody have anything before I keep going? I just have a little bit more to tell you guys.
I think there was something in the chat.
Oh, was there? Let me see.
Yeah, and it was a little bit earlier, but just to let you know, so nothing gets missed.
Okay.
It was about how to listen softly. What does that mean to listen?
Oh, listen gently.
Or listen gently.
Listen gently. All that means is to keep your focus really on your breathing. your focus on the sensation of the air against your skin or the weight of your body on the floor or the sofa. This is where your focus is. In the background are these words, and they are coming in. If you choose and you find yourself focused on the words, that's fine. But when I say focus gently, it's just there, supporting you, surrounding you, but you aren't reading it. You aren't intensely listening to it and trying to catch every word. It isn't that. It's just flowing through you and around you and supporting this time of your own introspection. That is all it's doing. Does that help? Whoever asked that? All right. I'm going to assume it does. If not, message me. All right.
Is it a problem, Christy, is it a problem if your mind starts to repeat even the first part where you're not asked to repeat it?
No, I don't think so at all. I think nothing is a problem in that. But as you do that, you find that if that helps you to focus, that's fine. Whatever feels, if it feels good to you while you're doing it and you can feel that lightness of it, I think that's fine. I've never done that, but I think that's absolutely fine. It's just, you just want it there to support you. And at the back half, you can repeat every word. I think many of you have probably heard them so much that you can say it ahead of time before it's happening. You've memorized it. But yeah, Sylvia, especially if you feel you're in that good spot and you're starting to meditate and that's the inspiration that you have, then that's the perfect way for you to do it. Yeah, I think so. So something that I heard a long time ago, and it helped me a little bit. And it was just this idea that there really are 3 stages of meditation. And the first one is just observing thoughts and feelings, right? Just noticing pain in your body, discomfort in your body, focusing on your breath, noticing irritation, focusing on that, noticing thoughts that you attract and letting them go. I thought that was really interesting. And most all of you who are just starting to meditate, and probably many of you have been doing it for a while, are still in meditation. The thoughts are, am I doing this right? I'm not doing this right. How do people actually meditate? This is impossible. I mean, all of these things that you're thinking. I'll be the only person in all this group that never learns how to meditate. This is, all of us have those thoughts. I promise. It's 100% of us. So when you find yourself doing that, just be aware and bring your mind back to your breath, and you can chuckle, right? And you can say, up, thought, up. You just pay attention and you will see how funny that is. So that's that first stage of meditation. And I think that's kind of cool. And then that second stage of meditation is observing silence. And this is something that's really interesting to me in the Joshua meditation, or in any guided imagery meditation, or just in a Hertz meditation where you just have the music. You start to observe those moments when you do have a thought and your mind isn't wandering. You've cleared it, you're focused on your breath, and yet all of a sudden a thought comes in. And you can start paying attention to those spaces between the words of a thought. Once it begins to slow down enough that you can catch it and observe it, then you can see if the thought is, I'm really enjoying this meditation. You can just inside your mind try to separate between those words and just focus on those silent spots. That idea of focusing on the silence as you progress in meditation, the gaps in your thought and that space of silence, even if you're listening to music or listening to something, that silence you'll begin to recognize, that period of no thought, and then being able to have a thought and play with it and realize this thought is not you, it was just attracted, and then you can let it go. And so when you hear me or any of us say we have thoughts that we play with in meditation, once you've learned to really slow that down and you can tell that you have, you can be in a very high spot in meditation. And I'm wondering if this happens, Jessica. I think you and I have talked about this before, and be just really in that spot where you are on, I swear I'm in another dimension. I'm on some kind of journey, and it's amazing. And all of a sudden, a thought will come in of an argument that I had yesterday. And I at first it flipped me out. Wait, how can I be this high vibrational and this come in? And White Light and I were having this conversation because now you can look at it. Now you can see exactly what this thought is, and you can play with it and you can address it because you're not feeling the negative emotion. You can understand what observing it means. You can see that it isn't you and it means nothing about you. And that's a really interesting spot to be. You can get great ideas in meditation. A thought of something wonderful comes in and you can begin to play with it. You can expand the idea and think about what it would look like and do that in meditation as well. Once you've gone into the second stage of meditation, which is observing silence. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah, sort of? Okay.
Oh, yes, perfect. Great.
Yeah. All right, good. Thank you. That I love this, these 3 stages. So first stage is just observing thoughts. That's all that's happening. You're just observing thoughts and feelings. That's it. And second stage, you're observing silence. Now you're starting to recognize that there's been a good period of time with no thought. And when you have a thought, it's slow enough that you can see the space in between the words or in between the images of a canvas, where rather than looking at the painting, you're looking at the canvas, these off moments in meditation. And then what I call now this third stage, and in this thing I read, they also mentioned this, which is the third stage of meditation, which is losing yourself. And this is not something that we all talk about a lot, but those of us that do meditate and have been doing it for a very long time experience this from time to time, where you come out of a meditation, you feel as if you have been there for 60 seconds. You are quite clear that you weren't asleep and you have no idea what just happened. No idea. You don't remember anything. You weren't having, for me, I'm having conversations with White Light or anything else that I channel, and it's just nothing. And I come out and I don't have any idea. And that's very interesting. And the calm and peace and energy that I feel when I get to those moments it's magnificent. And that's something, that I want everyone to experience, because over time with meditation, you will. Anybody have something like that? Am I explaining it well? No?
Oh, you're beautiful, beautiful. You're explaining it beautifully.
I love that.
So helpful. Thank you.
All right, great. All right, so before we go, the only other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is after meditation, whether this is your first time to meditate or not. One other thing too. You're doing the Joshua meditations, those are timed. If you're attempting to, for the first time, branch out and do your own meditation to Hertz or anything else, I would suggest starting with a small period of time, unless you're very led to start with something. So 5 to 10 minutes, set a timer so that set a timer, do that. And as you get more comfortable, just increase that time in another 5 to 10 minute segment. So it might take 3 months to 6 months to get to where you can meditate for an hour, or you want to meditate for an hour. You will, I promise, but just increase it little by little. I would suggest, unless, again, all of you know, your personal guidance trumps anything I say today. So, but after meditation, this is something I think is just an interesting thing to do. When you first come out of the meditation, so after you've let your mind wander at the end bit for a minute or two, and you come out of the meditation, just before you jump up, check in with yourself. How do I feel? How do I feel? That's it. Just take note of how you feel. Be sure that you never judge any daily practice at all. During the meditation, there's no judgment. And after the meditation is complete, if you it felt like, gosh, my mind wandered the whole time. I spent the whole time bringing it back, and I didn't get anywhere. This is not the thing. If that's what happened, that is the perfect meditation for you that day. And there is a reason for it. And it's great and it's fine. The idea is that you're doing this and it's a practice. I spent years as a competitive ice skater. I did not step on the ice and know how to do a double axel. It took years. And meditation is that way. And I don't care if you've been doing it for 50 years, it's still a practice. I can do a meditation and be in a deep meditation for 2 hours and it's amazing. And I can also go in to meditate. And after 15 minutes, I've been doing that, bringing my mind back. Okay, that's what it was today. That's it. And it just does not matter. It's always going to be perfect for what you need. You're not trying to get anywhere. There's no destination. This is you going inside. Whatever's in there is what you want to see. Okay. So that never judging it. So just then that urge to analyze your progress. Well, I've been meditating for 3 months. How am I doing? No, that's not it. You're going to find that as you practice it, it moves and changes and evolves, and your interest in it and the things that you find, the things that someone will tell you to do, it will evolve, but it isn't a progression. It's just this evolution into knowing more of who you are and experiencing something. So when you come out and you check in with yourself and you are conscious that there's no judgment, there's no anything, how do I feel? Then the only thing that I would look at and that I've ever looked at is, how do I feel now compared to when I first sat down to meditate? How do I feel now? And start taking a note of that rather than judging the meditation itself or whether or not you did it right. Just, how do I feel right now? And how did I feel before I started? And how is it different? I think that's where you're going to get probably your best information, your best understanding. And then, that moment, then many of us, have to get up after meditation and take kids and, make food and get on a call and all of those things. If you can, when you finish a meditation, if you're going in to do your daily spiritual practice, try finding some kind of music on Insight Timer or on YouTube or something that's really nice. I listened to for years, still listen to it all the time on Insight Timer, a piece of music called The Dance of Life, or just Dance of Life. And I finish meditating, I'll click that on and play that in the background while I'm doing journaling or daily spiritual practice. And that's just a little thing that I enjoy. Maybe you guys will too. So I would suggest doing that to just ease yourself into your day at that point, if you can. And that's all I have.
Oh, sorry. I had one question about the,
Katie?
I think it's, for Taming the Monkey Mind. Was it Elliot Treves or Rick Braden?
I think it is Elliot.
Okay,
Elliot.
cool.
He's like dark hair, the picture of him on there, like a dark haired guy. And I think the name of the group that one is from is Stress Fit. I believe I've got my phone right here, so I'm gonna look it up. Well, I could even probably post it for you guys if you want on
Awesome.
in the Facebook group and the Bootcamp group. So I will do that myself. I'll post that for you. So yeah, Taming the Monkey Mind. And that probably, as much as anything, made the biggest difference in my meditation experience, was finding that and just doing it before I did Joshua meditation, or once I got deeper in and was doing longer ones. It's Elliot Treves, Treves. Well, if I could see, that'd be great, but I think it's Treves. Yeah.
And do you mind posting the Dance of Life also?
Yeah. Okay,
Awesome.
I'll do that too. Yep, I've got them both right here, so I think I can just copy and stick them right in the bootcamp thing when we get off. So, anybody have anything? Any
I do.
suggestions? Anybody else? Hey,
It's Jordan.
Hey, honey.
I have something that's maybe sort of like what Drew said about how he was walking through a door into something darker. And it really doesn't make sense. It's hard for me to explain, but if I'm sitting there with my eyes shut, it's almost like one of those hidden eye puzzles where you're trying to just blur your eyes to see the picture. So I
Yep.
sit there, and even though I see nothing and it's dark, I just imagine that I'm doing that, and that's the best, times that I've had doing it that way. And then another thing, I don't know if anybody has a pointer, but it's hard for me to keep my eyes shut. It's almost like I'm 7 years old and having to go to bed at 6 p.m. in the summertime. You know how they just want to open. So
Yeah.
what can you do? I can't I don't know, get
Can
energy
you wear an
out.
eye mask? Can you stand that? Those little
Yeah, I guess.
eye masks?
You think that would help, or
I don't know, maybe. Yeah,
anybody
it
else has
might.
one?
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
tape your eyelids shut instead of doing your makeup, but
I thought about it.
I don't know, or meditate, find a point on the wall and just stare at that and leave your eyes open.
Okay.
People
That's a
do,
good idea.
I mean, I
Or a
don't think
flame
that's
or something.
ideal. I'd be distracted, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anybody
Thank
else
you.
got a suggestion for her on that one? No? Dang, Jordan, you're unique. You got a weird problem. Nobody's else.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
just-
the air that leaves
Yeah,
your
I
eyes
don't know, I
open.
haven't had that one. While you were talking about that and that unfocusing, it made me think of something else, which is that I also had a meditation instructor one time tell me that any distraction that I hear, so a siren going by or whatever, any distraction, just let that remind you of where you need to focus and take you deeper. And I'll be darned if it doesn't work. I almost welcome noise. I can seriously sit in my car in a parking lot and meditate for 30 minutes, no problem. Because of that one little trick. Just, okay, I hear a distraction. Damn it. No, when they be quiet, I'm trying to meditate. And then no, just make it remind you of where you need to be, where you want to be, what you want to do. And it worked. So
Christy?
Yeah.
Well, was that Jordan that asked about, Jordan, was that you that said you kind of have a hard time keeping your eyes shut?
Yes.
I did years ago pay to, anyway, this guy talked about open eye meditation, and I'm going to butcher the word. So I don't even want to say it, but it's like something with, I'm going to say it wrong. Somebody else can correct me, but it's some like Dzogchen meditation. It's like DZ something. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Jamin.
Awesome. I see it there. Okay.
It's an open
Cool.
eye meditation. I tried it in the very beginning when I started meditating, and I found that worked for me. And then I started to carefully choose the right type of candle that is very self-contained, and I would focus on the flame.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Awesome.
Oh, that's really good. Okay. That's awesome. See, there you go. See, maybe that's your thing. You're not supposed to close your eyes. You're supposed to hear that from JoJo, and it's going to take you on a whole new trip. Who knows?
Awesome. Thanks,
Right?
Dad.
Yeah, I'll just chime in real quick, but Dzogchen is kind of what I've practiced for years. And yeah, for me, it's like whether my eyes are open or closed, I can kind of go into this open spaciousness. And if any distraction comes up, whether they're my thoughts or an ambulance going by, it's like the tendency of the mind is to want to like narrow and like jump and focus on that thing and go into this like narrow place. But like Dzogchen helped me like just keep that spaciousness, and I let the ambulance or the thought be a small part of that big spaciousness. And it's really nice. It's like everything gets to be included in the spaciousness, and you just like, you're not kind of like jumped around or jostled by any of the things that come up.
Oh, wow. I love that. I just
Very
learned
cool.
something new.
But Christy, I did have one last question for you before
sure,
we
Jimmy.
ended. But yeah, if you could, I'd love to hear you share a little bit about like what your journey with meditation was like, specifically in terms of like how that started to bring about the channeling for you. I'm like really curious about the connection between the meditation and kind of the empathic and channeling abilities.
All right. Keep in mind that it was also a result of 8 boot camps, and I was a star straight A student. I did all the assignments. I did everything. So that was part of it. My perspective was going up, doing that work as well. But I was very afraid of meditation. There were a number of years that I would not do it because there was a period in my life where I was 30s, young, 28 to 30. I was real unhappy. And I started meditating, doing chanting meditations. And after about 3 weeks of that, my boyfriend at the time was murdered. And my whole life changed. And Drew was with me during that. We were friends back then. So that made me fear it. So for many, many years, I would not do it until I found Joshua, spoke to Gary, and Gary suggested that if I was that afraid to meditate, that I just listen to the Joshua meditations and walk around. Didn't matter, just play them and do my thing, but just listen to them. And after working the boot camp, I began to understand what had actually happened. I hadn't caused anything, and whatever. I started meditating, and just like we're doing now, finding different ways, Joshua meditations in the morning, began doing other things at night. Were points in time where I would meditate 3 times a day over the last couple of years, but primarily it was just morning and then evening again. Doing that allowed me, I believe what happened is that I slowed my thought down, and I could really somehow begin to tell the difference between some thought that I was just attracting, and then the sound of my inner self, which I could describe to all of you. I know the sound of that. And then from there in meditation, I would reach out and I would speak to my inner self. And then I would speak to Abraham sometimes, or Joshua. I would just ask questions to start to discern the difference in the way the answers sounded to me. All of this was done in meditation. And at one point, I was meditating and doing just that. I had asked my inner self questions, was getting answers, just letting things come in, seeing some imagery, and I could suddenly see this council that was Joshua to me. They were not all human, maybe only 30% human, but it was this gorgeous regal council of centaurs and all kinds of different things just in my meditation. It was crazy. And I asked them if I could I see you all the time? And they said, sure, open your eyes. And I was afraid to open my eyes. I was in meditation. And that is when then I was introduced to white light. It was this council that I recognized as Joshua that I could see clearly in my meditation. If I was any kind of an artist, I could draw it, paint it for you guys. But they said, no, we're just here to introduce you to your next teacher. And they pulled back a curtain, and behind it was this bright light, white, clear light. And I could look straight into it because it wasn't my physical eyes. My eyes were closed. I was just seeing it all in meditation. And that was when I met white light, and I asked a question, they answered, and I learned how they sounded to me, and I kept them to myself for quite some time, about 9 months. I didn't ever think it would be something that I would channel. I just would get things and tell friends, tell Drew and tell people in this group, and everyone started saying, that's some amazing stuff you're getting right there. So that was it. And then I think that meditation allowed me to discern the way these different energies sound. So I know the difference in the way a transitioned loved one consciousness feels. And I also can tell where these things approach me from what around my body physically, where they approach and how they feel, and then how they sound. So I can discern the different personalities, even in the different consciousness. And I believe that is 100% because of meditation and meditating every single day. Does that tell you anything?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thanks for asking. All right. Anybody else have anything before we go? I know it's a Saturday and I see little ones there. So anybody have anything else before we go at all?
Christy, I have a question for you.
Yeah, Jenny.
Glad that Jeeman asked that question because it was in the back of my mind too. I was curious when you were doing, since you were, and I'm not the best student in terms of been in a million boot camps and I'm still not doing the work, but
yes, you are.
I had. Okay. So then my question has to do with processing your limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find any difference in your self-discovery, if you will, from doing hand to paper versus in your head or another way?
I, for my first, I'm going to say 3 boot camps, I was almost 100% hand to paper. I got a little better in like boot camp 3, where if it wasn't major, I could do it in my head, but I also could tell how sloppy I was when I did it in my head. I knew I was kidding myself, right? Certain ones I could do. But to this day, I have a notebook that, I mean, I've been through, I don't know how many. I have a notebook that says ME on the top of it, and I write manifestation events out now. I still put pen to paper. I channel. I've got, 4 entities with me all the time that I can channel, and I get answers, and I still have to write it. I have to slow my mind down to write it most of the time, especially if they're intense for me. Does that help? In my head, not so much. I can get the higher perspective very quickly in my head. I can move to that because intellectually I know the higher perspective. I have this wonderful fortune of having entities that I talk to that will also help get me there or point things out to me in a different way. And so I get there a lot that way now. Writing them out is not as common for me now. I write in a different way about just moving my perspective and always reaching for that higher perspective, no matter what it is. And I tend to see the manifestation events much differently than I did a while back. It's more of not quite at the place of very much welcoming them, but I'm definitely very curious when they show up, and it's interesting and can be fun. So, but I do think initially that writing with your hand to begin to slow yourself down and allow your inner self, allow yourself to lift up a bit so that you can attract and hear those thoughts from a slightly higher vibration. I think it's very valuable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did that answer it, Jojo?
Yeah, it did. And then I just wanted to comment out how absolutely beautiful it was, the way you described your introduction to the white light. That just felt it in my body. That's beautiful.
Oh, it was to me too. And it's funny now when I tell it, it's much more impactful than when it happened. When it happened, I was just like, oh, well, that's weird. Right. And it was just not a big deal to me at the time. That's fun. What a fun meditation. And then I just carried this white light around with me all over it. And now when I tell the story, it chokes me up a little bit. It's very interesting that it was Joshua I was talking to that then introduced me to white light. And now they're collaborating, bringing things forward. It's emotional for me. So thanks for saying that. All right. Okay, you guys, happy meditating. Go enjoy your Saturday. I know all of you know how to reach me, email, text, whatever. If anybody is stuck or wants anything else, needs else, please, you guys know you can always reach out. I'm always here, and I love hearing what's going on with you. So email or text. Okay. I love you all. You're beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you so much, Christy. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.